Good evening, survivors. How are you? Welcome back to another healing conversation. I am actually excited about this one. It is the month of March, and we are celebrating women. I have my dear friend and my walking partner. She will be on, Laurie Jackson. So we are going to talk about some girl stuff. We're going to talk about women, celebrating women, uplifting women, encouraging women. We're going to talk about some of her struggles, some of the things that she has endured, and some of her aspirations and goals. So I'm excited to connect with her. So I'm going to send her an invite. Come on. Hopefully you guys are doing well this evening. I am ready. I got my powerful shirt on with my picture of women, so I am ready. So let's just see if she's able to come on. Hey, Andrea. See if it works. Yep, I see that you accepted the invite. Let me see if I can send it to you. Hold on, huh? Okay. So, Jackson, if you hear me, hey, good evening. If you are on your computer, that may be why you're not getting the able to come on. So you may want to try your phone. Hi, how are you? All right, so let me send it again. We're having some technical difficulties, but we are coming. So, yep, it says you are unable to join. So let me see if I can do it again. Okay. So I sent you another invite. Let's see if it works. Do you see another invite, hon? Okay. So I accept it again. So it's giving me the option to accept, and then it's giving me the option to go live with you, but I just don't see you. And it tells me you're unable to join.
Hi.
Finally,
You
right?
know what happened? I was on my phone, but
Uh-huh.
I did not have Instagram set for a camera and microphone. So when I realized that, I put those settings in, and now we're here. How you
Yeah.
doing?
Thank you for being here. Finally, we got it together, y'all. We here. Some of your peoples is on already.
I
Say
see my
hello.
sister-in-law and I see David's on there. Okay, okay.
Hey
That's good.
guys, good evening. Thank you for joining us this evening. All right, so you ready to get into the conversation?
Why not?
All right. So I was just saying, just bringing you in that we are good friends. We're definitely walking partners. We've known each other for a while. I didn't tell no story. That's totally up to you. What you want to do. Um, but just introduce yourself a little bit. I know you're going to talk more about like your career path and everything a little later on, but just tell, the people a little bit about yourself so we can get started.
Okay, so Laurie Jackson, 53. I am an assistant principal. I've been an assistant principal for the past 2 years in Queens. Before that, I was a teacher, a literacy coach. I worked on films. I worked at McKinsey and Company. I wanted to be an actor for a while. I've done a lot of different things, and a lot of people might think, oh my goodness, how could you do so many different things? But I think it's actually helped me be very flexible in life. So I think it's when people say, oh, this kid doesn't know what they've decided to do yet, it's okay. Because
Mm-hmm.
whatever you do is going to prepare you to do something else. And it makes you flexible, and it makes you actually amenable to the real world, because the
Mm-hmm.
real world doesn't go straight. It's ups and downs and dips and dives. And if you can't handle that, then you're going to be out of luck.
All right. Thank you so much. So when I first came on, I said we are celebrating women because March is Women's History Month. So this conversation is all about celebrating women, doing a little bit girl talk. So for the men that's on the live, just give us a little bit time. But we want to do a little bit of girl talk this evening.
Yes.
So as we are talking about women and celebrating Women's Month. Let's start with some women who have inspired you, past and present.
Okay. So I guess I'll start out with uh, my name is Laurie Jackson, daughter of Frances Jackson, who was the daughter of Clara Spears Gregory, who was the daughter of Martha Spears. Now, I say that in that way because that is the way Girl Trek, which is a community that you and I both belong to,
Yep.
we're trying to form the matriarchal line.
Mm-hmm.
And we do that to honor the women because most of the time our names are taken from the patriarchal line. And so one of the women I would like to say that inspired me was my mother,
Mm-hmm.
because even though she was diagnosed with sickle cell when I was 3 years old,
Okay.
and she was diagnosed by an African doctor because nobody
Mm-hmm.
knew what was wrong with her. And they said, has anybody tested this woman for sickle cell? And that was back
Right.
in the early 70s when
Mm-hmm.
that became clear that this was something that was hitting the African American community. But one of the things I admired about my mother is that she always kept trying. She wanted to learn how to drive. She never got her license, but she always tried. She wanted to hold a job. Every time she got a job, they would say, oh, she would get sick and she'd be in the hospital for 6 months. And we'd have to deal with that. And I'd be shipped off to my aunt to stay with her because my brothers were 10 years older than me. So they were in college or, away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I always saw her spirit as always trying, never give up. And I admired that about her, and even when I went to school and college, she was always like, I want you to be able to take care of yourself. She had to basically fight with my father for me to get a job because
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing. He got all my brother's jobs. Like they got jobs at the Daily News and they were able to make a lot of good money, which I would have loved to have done. But she said,
Yes.
Laurie needs to make money too. And she has to learn to take care of herself.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that killed me about this is that as even though my father wasn't that keen about me getting a job, when I said to him, I wanted to be a teacher, he goes, no, I don't want you to be a teacher because teachers don't make any money and I don't want you to be dependent on a man. Now, Isn't that something?
That's a little bit,
Uh-huh.
yeah. So what was your response to that? Like, how did you take that? How did it kind of like, I wonder why you said, what was your response to
My
that?
response to that was, I guess I'll be a lawyer. And I took the LSAT and I applied to
Uh-huh.
law school.
Okay.
And I was prepared to go. And then I got the acting bug and
Okay.
went off on a whole other path. But in terms of my reacting to what he said to me, well, a lot of things he said to me was like, you just need to be independent. You need not be dependent on anybody. And like the song says, God bless the child that has her own. You
Mm-hmm.
always want to have your own. And I think that's true. It was funny. I forgot. The woman who was married to Gary Owens, the comedian, I can't remember her name, but he's a white comedian. She's a black woman. And they got a divorce. They've been married for 20 years and she managed him. And then when the
Mm-hmm.
divorce happened, she realized she had nothing in her name. And so she's starting a podcast. I hope I can find, I think her name is Kenya. I'm not sure. But when I was reading her
Okay.
story, I was like, see, it's not about, oh, I don't trust you or I don't. It's just that everybody needs to have their own, because that's just what it is to be a human being in this world. You need to have your own.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So your mom was definitely one of them. And I'm going to get back to the sickle cell in a minute
Yeah.
because I just wanted to know, like, when we talk about
Hey,
health
Nat.
and taking care of
Hey, Urine.
ourselves.
Okay, sorry.
No,
I'm seeing some people
oh,
on
you're
here, so I
fine.
have to
Do
say hi.
hey, hey, internet. How are you? It's fine. Um, because I want to talk to. I want you to share about the sickle cell, but not right now.
Okay.
Right. So we're going to do that a little later.
Okay.
So your mom was like one of the women that inspired you. She had a very, sounds like she had a very determined spirit. She was determined not to give up, and she taught you how to be independent and also not to give up.
Yes.
So if you can say, you can share another person, another
Oh,
woman.
that's easy. Harriet Tubman. I used to
Okay.
read everything I could about Harriet Tubman. I'm in the middle of reading another book about Harriet Tubman now, because when you think about this woman, she was a slave. She ran away. She not only ran away, she came back to get her family. She came back to get others. Never forgot about what she had to do,
Mm-hmm.
and still kept a spirit of giving and love. And she was a whole woman. She got married. Her husband was 20 to 30 years younger than her. She didn't care what people thought. She lived her life. She was a whole woman. So when we talk about Harriet and we talk about, slavery, and we talk about the Underground Railroad, we also have to remember that she was a woman, a total
Mm-hmm.
woman, with the weaknesses and strengths of everybody. And I
Mm-hmm.
remembered a teacher had in her classroom when I was coaching one day, and she says, if you think you had a hard day, think about Harriet Tubman. And that gets me through the day sometimes. I'm thinking, you're complaining about something, and you're like, this woman walked to freedom without a coat, without shoes, anything else. You need to just
Mm-hmm.
stop and
Yep. Just
and be
get
grateful
it
for what you
together
have.
and get it all the way
Get
together.
it together.
So get
Exactly.
it together. Um, so Harriet Tubman, and what you mentioned, and we're going to talk about that a little later too, is that she's reading another book. Okay, one thing about Laurie, I call her Jackson. That's my name for her, right? So one thing about Jackson is that she's going to read some books. She is an avid reader. I have never seen somebody read so many books and get through them like this. So we're going to talk to her about that a little later. But give me one more woman present.
Oh, present.
Present.
Ooh, present. Uh, you know, I'm thinking about authors actually,
Mm-hmm.
and there are several women who I think about. I think about. You said one. Isabel Wilkerson.
Mm-hmm.
She wrote a book called Caste. And
Okay.
she also wrote the book The Warmth of Our Suns, which is still sitting on my bookshelf. And just how she gets into the history and makes it real. And she's just very inspiring. If you can go and see her on an Apple podcast where she's talking about this, she really talks about the way in which we as a people have formed these hierarchies. And it's not just about black and white. It's about Asian society. It's about European society. And once you know history, you realize that there's really nothing new, and that this is why they don't want you to teach history. Because when you teach history, people will start joining together more than being apart, because we have a lot more in common than we really know about. And when they start trying to make these schisms about, oh, well, black people are here, white people are here, Japanese are here, Chinese are here, oh, they're trying to be white, oh, they're trying to be this, you're playing into their hands, because there's no payoff in people getting together. The payoff is in keeping people separate. But once you know history, you'll know there is no separate. And that's why they don't want you to learn the true history of black people, Asian people, any people. They want it just, we'll keep it in a way which will support the people who have the money, the politicians, everybody else.
I think you said something really powerful. You said once we know the history, right? And so if we want to find out, like if we want to dive into the history, right? Because then you would see that we have so many things in common. And I think that is so true. And I don't want to disregard the struggles, right, that many cultures have experienced, including our culture, because this is one of the focuses of this year, Black trauma, right? So I don't want to discredit or disregard that, but I think you made a really powerful point.
Thanks.
So, all right, as we moving on, and you guys, if you have questions, drop them in the chat. Hey, Miss Hines, how are you?
Hey.
Career path. When you did a little bit of an introduction about yourself, you said you had many careers, and all of them helped to shape the professional that you are today. So let's talk about some of that and some of the obstacles that you have encountered along the way of your career path.
Oh, okay. So I think I always wanted to be a teacher, but as I said, my father kind of made me rethink that. But
so you said you're not going to make no money.
but I always wanted to be. So let's see. Being on stage, being an actor was a big thing for me. And I went through a lot of that stuff. I went on auditions, I did shows, and I always kept getting the same types of roles. Okay, do you want to tap dance? Do you want to be the maid? Do you want to be the slave? And I admire those women, those actresses out there today who went through all of that to do it. But in order to do that, you have to love the profession. I liked it. I didn't love it. So that wasn't good for me. And then when I left, when I said, well, what do I want to do? And then I thought about behind the scenes. And a friend of mine, Joyce Isabel, said, hey, you know, you were talking about being an actor and doing film and all that stuff. There's an ad in Essence about the Directors Guild of America training program. And I said, oh, that's interesting. I applied, got through the test. Then you go to an interview where a one-on-one with this gentleman. And for some reason, he was very antagonistic. He was telling me I wasn't answering his questions. I wasn't doing this. I wasn't doing that. And I was getting angry. And finally, he was like, well, see, I don't know how we can hire somebody like you. You don't answer the questions. I said, stop. I said, I started to answer your question. You went off to another question. And then you took a phone call. And now you want to tell me I didn't answer your question? Which question do you want me to answer now? Thank you, Miss Jackson. That'll be all. Okay. I got to the third round. third,
Okay.
exactly. And that's how they were trying to weed you out to see how you would react.
Mm.
The
Okay.
third round, you're surrounded by the Directors Guild of America people around a round table. You're at the head, and they're all surrounding you, asking you questions, all these things. Did the best I could. Got the phone call. Got the letter that said, "Oh, thank you so much for applying. I'm sorry, we were not going to accept you, and but if you would like to be considered as an alternate, please call Sandy Foreman and she'll let you know." And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, they always do this stuff, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I called Sandy Foreman, and she's
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, hello, how are you?" And I said, "Well, I just want to know, like, is this like the Miss America pageant, like, where they say the runner-up is gonna get it, if the person drops out and they never drop out?" And she starts laughing. She's like, "No, no, 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 it's not true. It's just, sometimes things happen." And I said, "Okay, fine." I was working at a temp job, and this must have been around 3 months later. Come home from
Mm-hmm.
work. This is when we had answering machines.
Mm-hmm.
I see it blinking. I click it. It says, "Hi, Laurie. This is Sandy Foreman. I just had to let you know it was not like the Miss America pageant. We have more jobs. We would like to accept you into this internship." See? And that's when something like that happens to you, you realize that there's always a possibility. Don't
Mm-hmm.
worry about the no's. It might change. So from that, going into, getting my feet wet in trying to be an assistant director, like I worked on Law and Order, The Preacher's Wife, things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
then I realized I didn't love it. So after I did that, I said, well, maybe I'll try something else. I got a temp job at Scholastic, negotiated a good salary, and started working for the film production end of it.
Before you go there,
Okay.
wait. Before you go there, I have a question. I have a question for you because I have a question about what you said when you went to audition, and you said the only roles that they were offering were like maids and slaves. Why do you think that is?
Oh, because that was like, oh my gosh, that was like back in 92. I mean, a lot of stuff is like, it was stereotypical. You didn't have Hamilton where they could conceive of you doing something different. It was oh, this is a Black part. You would even look at Backstage magazine. They'd say, we're looking for Black women, da 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 da. This is what it was very much. This is a part for you. This is a part for you. This is a part for you. And a lot of people made it through that. But like I said, if you don't love it, you don't
Mm-hmm.
want to go through that.
Mm-hmm. I wanted you to share that because that's what I assumed, but I wanted you to
Yeah.
say it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, Scholastic, once you got there,
Once I
tell us
got
about that.
there, it was the year of Harry Potter. Everybody's trying to get books for me and all that stuff. Um, it was fun. I didn't like corporate America. And I saw as I work, I worked on it. You'll still see my name in credits for Clifford the Big Red Dog because I worked on that. But I saw these ads for the Teaching Fellows program.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kept calling me and calling me and calling me. And then one day I went to a workshop by Debrina Jackson Gandy, who wrote this book called All the Joy You Can Stand. And it was all about, these different steps you should take to make your life meaningful, more joyous, happy. So I went, because the thing was right by my job at Scholastic, I went back to the office. I wrote my resignation letter, and I broke up with my boyfriend the same night.
Talking about some
And
power moves.
and
That was some power moves.
and I hadn't even been accepted to the Teaching Fellows program yet. And I was just like, yeah, I'm done. And that's how I became a teacher. I got accepted in August, and that was my career path because it was what I really wanted to do.
So I'm gonna backtrack a little bit.
Uh-oh.
You said you didn't like corporate America.
Yeah.
What was it? What was it about corporate America that you didn't like?
Okay. You know I'm going to cuss I. It was the
Okay.
bullshit. Okay? Let me just say that.
Okay.
I mean, if you... Okay, first, I didn't know who I was more mad at. The people in charge or the people I worked with. When I worked at McKinsey and Company, when I was doing temp work, I was just growing my hair natural, right? But what I would do is I would wear it in twists on the weekend, and then I, calm it down so it's more conservative when I went to the job. I got sick of that. Went to the job one day with my twists all out and everything else, and I was like, bump it. That's okay. It's a temp job. I still do my work. You know who gave me the most grief about that?
Corporate America.
No, black women. You're not going to get a job with your hair looking like that. They're not going to hire you. And I was like, okay. You know who gave me compliments on my hair? The white women at the job. Oh, wow, that is so cool. I cannot believe you can do your hair like that. And then I realized that a lot of this was more about who you know, what you know, blah, blah, blah. And I just wasn't feeling it. It's the same thing that bothered me about the film production. Who you know, what you knew. And just, I didn't want to fulfill someone else's vision and not be totally into it. So that's, to me, is what corporate America is like. You're working for someone else's vision, and you may not even be enamored of that vision. And I remember one time my boss was being really snippy, and I had to tell her, I was like, let me tell you something. My mother never spoke to me this way, and neither will you. And she looked at me like, who is this person? And I'm not, I know you don't believe this, but I was basically a shy person growing up. And when I got to that point, I was like, no, I'm not into this. You're not going to yell at me like, you don't even talk to your children that way, because I know how you talk to your children. I know how you tell them to talk to your maid, but you're not going to talk to me like that. So yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So corporate America, X for corporate America. Got it.
Yeah.
So before we go on to the next question I have for you, of course I have some more about what you already shared. And it's more of an overview of everything that you shared. It was more of things like ongoing themes that you talked about as you were talking about your different experiences. And this is when we're talking about celebrating women, right? So there were the themes that came up as you were sharing the issue with having to fit in, right? Issue with having to fit in. There was a stereotype about what you could do. There was a stereotype about, not so much a stereotype, but there was the theme of the strong Black woman, the strong-willed woman. Now, what we learned as you were telling your story is that you got that from your mama, right? So you may have got it from your dad, but you explained it to us as you got it from your mom because your mom was very determined. She taught you how to be independent. And of course, it would make sense that you are a strong woman of how you are now. So just talking about that and relating that to how Black women are, particularly, right, having to fit in, even the issue of your hair, right, which was surprising but not surprising. You said how there was more of the white woman that complimented you and the Black woman told you were going to have issues. I would hope that that's a little different now. I said I would hope. That's all I'm going to say about it.
Depends on where you are. I mean, I really don't know.
So how does those themes and those things that you have already shared with us in regards to going through this experience of having to fit in, fitting into this role, being a strong Black woman, how do you think that they have impacted the way that Black women function now as they are trying to pursue their goals and aspirations?
That's
I hope that
a
makes
big
sense.
question. You're trying
Yeah.
to generalize. I can't speak for all Black women, Saya. Come on.
No, I'm not trying. So let me change the question. From the women, from the Black women that you have interacted with, and
Yes.
from your experience, because I just want to talk, I want you to talk from your experience and the woman that you have experienced. So how do you think that has had an impact on how we function as we are trying to navigate society and we're trying to go after our goals?
I think that it's an interesting question because I'm of two sides about it.
Okay.
I do believe that you need to be strong, but you have to be compromising too.
Mm.
I mean, I'm married, and the hardest part for me about marriage was the sharing and the compromising, because I had been living on my own for a long time, and so had he. And the fact that I had to share closet space, that I had to negotiate certain things, that's tough. And
That's a
yeah,
that's
you're a
a that's a
strong,
tough one for a lot of us. That's a tough
yeah,
one. Closet space? Mm-mm. Yeah.
and just the fact of, when do you eat? Who's gonna cook? Who's gonna clean? Who's gonna do this?
Mm-hmm.
Who's gonna do that? I mean, so if you're trying to put the paradigm of the strong Black woman, and you're trying to marry that to, like, we're trying to make strong families,
Mm-hmm.
you have to balance it. And I think that's the hard part that people are having, is the balance.
Mm-hmm.
You can be soft and hard. It's not I've got to be this one way all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that's part of the navigation. I think that's part of the learning process. I mean, we want to be tough. Like, I mean, I told my principal today, I was like, look, we had a situation where a parent was threatening to kill somebody, you know, all this nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'm not no punk. I said, look, somebody comes in here, I'm not going to be the first one down.
Mm-hmm.
He's laughing at me, and I'm like, no, I'm serious, because my life is valuable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm serious. I'm not trying to be tough. I'm trying to preserve my life because I'm important, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that goes into, how do we value ourselves? If you value yourself and you know yourself, you can be different things to different people. You don't have to be one way all the time. It's about the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of the growing process as just a human being on this planet.
So when you say, how do you value yourselves? I think that is so particularly crucial when it comes to Black women, because honestly, I think some of us struggle with that, right? How do we value ourselves? We may think that we value ourselves, and then yet our actions and our responses may say otherwise, right? So I think that is a really crucial question. And here's the other part. Am I secure enough to be okay with taking that step back, right? Because I don't have to be hard. I don't have to be hard, and I don't have to be in your face and all that. I don't have to be that all the time. I know when it's necessary, right? But I don't have to be that way all the time. So a lot of times when we're that way 24/7, sometimes that speaks to an insecurity.
And there you go. And one of the things I've learned throughout all my many professions, everybody's insecure.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody.
About something. Absolutely. We
Everybody's
all have it.
insecure about something. And
Mm-hmm.
once you realize that, you don't take things personally anymore. So if somebody's in your face, if you're dealing, and I talk about this because I'm an educator, right?
Mm-hmm.
If a parent is in my face and they're like, yo, I'm going to do blah, blah, blah. I'm like this, and I go, okay, what would you like me to do?
Mm-hmm.
And they're just shocked that I'm not in their face. It's like, well, what would you
You're
like
not
me to
reacting.
do?
You're not reacting.
I can't react, because then that's all you're doing. There's no listening. And most of the time, people just want to be heard. When
Mm-hmm.
somebody's upset about something, it's most of the time it's because they feel as though they have not been heard.
Mm-hmm. And Kimberly says, and that takes courage to admit. Yes, it does, Kimberly. It definitely takes courage to admit that we are insecure in certain areas of our life, particularly as Black women, right? That because we don't want to be perceived as insecure. We want to be perceived as we have it all together. But the truth is that we do not. So it does come to a point that we have to learn in our journey that I don't have to be on the defensive all the time, right? I can, okay, I can take a step back, but then also, Jackson, we also have to be comfortable in doing that, right? Not just comfortable with ourselves, but also comfortable in our environment, right? You happen to be one of the most fortunate educators that you actually really trust your principal, right? You're
I do.
comfortable functioning in and navigating in your space. There's a lot of us who are trying to get there, right? Some of us don't feel comfortable in that, and we're trying to get to the place that we don't feel like we have to be on the defense all the time.
But I also think that's a choice we make. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll put it that way because
Mm-hmm.
this is my first assistant principal job.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't take the first job that was offered to me.
Yep.
I didn't take the second.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had my certificate for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason was, and I remember we were having this conversation, I told you, I said, I don't want to be working for just anybody. I want to be comfortable, and I want to feel like I'm part of a team. And I think a lot of that in terms of how we're dealing in the world, as much as we want jobs, we have to understand that as much as they're interviewing you, you're interviewing them. Because you're going to spend the majority of your time in this space. And if you're just taking it because you want a title or you want this, it's not going to work. I waited until I had a job that was, 15 minutes from my house. Okay?
Yes.
Come on. I've never had a job that close. 15 minutes from my house, and I actually love the people I work with.
Which is hard to come by. And it like you said, it wasn't the first or second or third opportunity. Was it the third? I don't remember. It wasn't the first or second.
Fourth, fifth. I mean, it was like, and it was funny because I told him, I said, you know what? It was easy to say yes to you. And that's the thing. If you got to think about it, if you got to like try to maneuver it, it's not right for you. You should be able to just say yes. Hey, Michelle. Hey, Sherry. These are my girls.
Yes.
Michelle was a teacher
I
in the
noticed
DO.
that.
She was a school psychologist and a teacher too. And Miss Sherry's up there doing good things in Rhode Island as a professor. So I gotta give them their props.
Celebrating women. Here we are, celebrating women. Awesome.
Yes.
So here's the next question before we move on to, I want to talk to you about being a lover of books.
Oh.
How did you know when it was okay to be, I don't want to say aggressive because that's not what it was, to be assertive? Because there's a difference between aggressive and assertive. When did you realize it was okay to be assertive? Because that's like the $1 million question that a lot of us want to know.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of certain times. Like, I definitely was not that assertive. Hey, Sean. I wasn't that assertive in high school. I wasn't assertive. I learned to speak up in high school.
Okay.
When I went to college, I was still kind of nervous, even though I ran for offices and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think I found it was okay to be assertive. I think the truth was when my first teaching job.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you got to understand something. I worked at a middle school in Queens that was supposedly the most violent middle school in Queens.
Oh, wait, hold the phone now. Hold the phone. Give me 1 second, hon. you were assertive before you became a teacher. Even as you talked about those experiences, how you spoke up when you did. That's why I asked the question. We didn't even get to the teaching thing yet. So when did you feel like it was okay to be assertive? Because you just, when you explained two of your career choices, there was two incidents that you spoke about being assertive. What you said at the guy at the interview when you were doing, I think, the acting, and then when you called that lady on the phone, I was like, hey, is this like the the Miss America pageant thing?
I
That's
think it
why
was
I mentioned it.
okay, so maybe it became okay to be assertive when I was passionate about something.
Thank you.
Maybe that's what it is.
Okay.
Okay, maybe
Okay.
that's what it is. If I'm passionate about something, I can be assertive.
Okay.
And that's just gonna flow.
Okay. And so you're comfortable in that space. You're like,
Because I never think of it as like, okay, I gotta be assertive now. I think of it
mhm.
as like, oh, I have to speak up about this now.
So for you, it's not about being assertive. It's about, okay, I need to speak up.
It's about your voice. It's about
My voice needs to be
valuing your
heard.
voice.
Got
And
it.
yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah, yeah. And I never thought of it as like, okay, now I'm an assertive person. It's more like, no, this is important to me. And I have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
That was
And
it.
I think because you put it that way, so when you said in your head it's not about being assertive, it's about this is important to me. So I think even how you viewed it, it kind of shaped your response. Because sometimes when we feel like we need to be assertive, our assertiveness comes across as being aggressive, right? And we
Mm.
don't want that. So thank you for clarifying that. All right. All right. Did you want to talk about the teacher before I ask you about the book club? It's up to you.
No, I don't want to talk about that. You know what? I made it through. That's
Okay.
all. I made it through.
All right. So you are definitely an avid book reader. You are
Yeah.
a lover of books, which is an understatement. I don't even think that statement even does it any justice because you go through books like water, and I'm like, I don't know how she does it. I'm like, I don't know how she does it because I'm like, I'm still reading this one book from last year.
Oh, remember when
So
you tried to start that Michelle Obama book club that
why
never
do you want to
happened?
call me
I
out?
read the
Why do you want
book
to call me
and you didn't
out?
even start the club. No, man, that's not
Wow.
right.
See? Y'all, she is calling me out.
Yes, I
Yes.
am.
So I started the Becoming book by Michelle Obama, and I got maybe halfway through, and then I bought the audio and I listened to the rest of it, okay? Because that book was thick, okay? And she was like, when you want to finish reading it? When you want to finish reading? Okay. So, like I said, she is a lover of books. She's an avid reader. So tell us about how that came about for you.
I've always loved to read. I mean, from when I was oh my gosh, forever. I can't remember not loving to read.
Mm-hmm.
It's like breathing to me. And I also think it was because I wasn't an only child, but my two brothers were 10 and 8 years older than me. So by the time I was kind of like functional to like, oh, I can talk, they were practically out of the house.
Okay.
Books are books are powerful because they can do anything for you. You don't need company if you have a book. If you want to go to Japan, if you want to take a trip, you can read a book. You want to talk to a girlfriend, read a book. You want to just learn something new, read a book. And that's the way I feel about it. If I go to the grocery store, I got a book. If I'm waiting in line, I'm reading the book.
And that's the absolute truth, yeah. Because we celebrate our birthdays. Our birthdays are the same month. We go away. She always got a book. She's reading a book, and I'm just like, and then next thing I know, okay, I'm done. I'm like, what do you mean you're done? She's done. She's
Oh, but you
on to
know
the
what?
next one.
But you know what the best thing is now? You know, I subscribe to People Magazine.
Okay,
I
tell me
get
about
a
that one.
regular magazine, People Magazine, and I get Essence, right? So I read the People Magazine to keep up with what's going on, and then I have to do the crossword puzzle in the back and find the
Yes.
things in the picture. It takes me around 45 minutes to an hour to get through the whole magazine. but it's fun. And I love puzzles now. I'm going back to my crossword puzzles.
So she is a lover of books. So you've always loved to read. So
Yes,
you're one of those people that when they say a book can take you anywhere, you are a strong believer in that.
always.
All right. What do you think? And I think you had touched on a little bit of this before, but
Mhm.
what do you think are some of the biggest obstacles that women face now, like in the here and now?
Themselves.
Tell us about that.
I think we are our biggest obstacle. The way we talk to ourselves, the way we feel about ourselves. I think that we would never talk to a friend the way we talk to ourselves sometimes. Oh my gosh, I'm too. No, I'm not telling you what I'm reading now. I'll get back to you, Shar. I'll tell you what I'm reading now. Okay. Heather McGee, The Sum of Us All. There you go. Okay.
I'm gonna tell her to
So,
type it in before we end the live so you can know, okay?
um, I just think that we do this self scrutiny, and I know I
Mm-hmm.
do it too. Oh, how am I looking? Oh, I need to lose some weight. No, I need to gain some weight. I need to exercise more. I need to do this. I need to do that. And truth be told, no matter what you do, there will be somebody who's going to say something negative. Doesn't matter. And as I get older, I'm letting it go. I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to let it go. I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to let go of the self scrutiny. Because,
Mm-hmm.
Saya and I, we do our walking and we're doing our exercise and all this stuff. And we'll go to days, I'm like, yo, I'm having a feeling fat day, girl. And she's
I
like,
just called her today about the same thing. I was like, I'm in the body shaming. I'm body shaming myself. And I was like, I don't like the space that I'm in. Go ahead, dear.
and we,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to talk ourselves out of that space.
Yep.
Just the way we would talk to a good friend. I mean, I believe Mary J. Blige has a music out, and I believe it's entitled "Hello, Gorgeous."
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need to wake up in the morning and say, "Hey, gorgeous, how you doing?" And I'm not just talking about gorgeous physically. I'm talking about gorgeous mentally, gorgeous spiritually,
Mm-hmm.
however you want it to be. And
Mm-hmm.
be kind to yourself. Write yourself a letter. Girl, this was a good day today. I didn't slap anybody even though they deserved it. Yeah, it's a good day.
Yep.
No.
Yep. Definitely. Thank you for that. I think that is such a big issue with women overall. We do a lot of self-critique,
Self-sabotage.
um,
I
self-sabotage for
can't do
sure.
it. I can't try to do it. I mean, the job I have now, I can't tell you the amount of people who told me, I can't believe you're leaving teaching. If you don't stay a teacher, you're gonna, that job you're taking, that's not permanent. And I thank goodness for one of my friends who said to me, girl, if you're good, you'll always have a job. And I take that with me. I'm
Mm-hmm.
good. I will always have a job.
Mm-hmm. So we a lot of times we talk ourselves out of things before we even get in it.
Yep.
And it's definitely, like you said, self-sabotage. So thank you for sharing that. Last question, and then we good. We're gonna wrap up. So you guys, if you have any questions, drop it in the chat. Any
Okay.
comment? I see. I love it. Love it. Oh, of course. And what book are you reading now? You have to put that in the chat before
I will.
before we finish.
I will.
Um. So one of my goals this year is to read more. Yep. So yeah, you need to stay connected to Jackson because she reads all the time and she's always posting stuff about reading. Let me see what else. Okay. Can you hear me, Jackson? Yeah, I can't hear you anymore either. Self-wellness. Okay. Okay, guys, can you hear
I can
me?
hear you.
Okay, now I can hear you too. Great.
Okay. Something
I
happened.
don't know. I don't know what happened.
Okay.
Self-wellness. Okay.
Yep.
So
Hey, Nichelle, that's my cousin. Okay.
Oh, hi, Michelle. I want to talk about women's organizations.
Mm.
Um, I want you to talk about the ones that you love, you stay connected to, ones that inspire you. I know we have some in common, but I'm just going to let you go with it.
Well, you're giving me too much credit. I only belong to one women's organization.
But there's women's organizations that we follow, like certain, so not just what I belong to, but certain women's So for example, Glamarina, right?
Oh, okay.
So we follow
Yeah.
Glamarina,
Okay. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why I said.
Oh, okay. So I try to follow. I'm a follower of Girl Trek, and if people are interested in Girl Trek, you can. They're on Facebook. You can Google them. It's a Black women's organization. The idea is to walk for at least 30 minutes a day to save our lives. And Saya and I went to DC. We did the walk in DC.
It was
Um,
awesome. It
it
was
was,
awesome.
yes, it was. It was beautiful.
Yes.
We met women from that whole area, Maryland, DC, New York.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. And everybody just trying to, you know, not trying to be skinny, not trying to be gorgeous, trying to be healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could be skinny and not healthy, and you could be full
People
figured
don't
and
realize
be
that.
very healthy.
Yeah.
But we don't know that, because that's another thing that we would know if we actually, dare I say it, read some books. We would, But what else? I join stuff online when it's about women's history.
Mm-hmm.
And
Girl Trek has their whole history is rooted in Harriet Tubman, right? So they
yes,
talk a lot about Harriet Tubman,
yes,
which is probably one of the reasons why Jackson loves it so much. And like they have T-shirts, so sometimes particularly when the weather is warm and we're walking, you'll see us with our Girl Trek on. Sometimes we take pictures, I post it, and I think there's one that says that we are Harriet. I think we both have that one. We
yes,
are Harriet. And so
yes,
they um they they did I think a tour recently to Harriet Tubman's house.
yes. I've
Oh
been
yeah.
there. If you have never been to Auburn, New York, you must go and see the
I
Harriet
need to
Tubman
go
house.
because I didn't go. I didn't get a chance
Oh,
to
you
go. So I
know
need to go.
what? April break.
Trip.
There you go.
There you
There you
go.
go. All
So
right.
now we planning our trip.
Okay.
So definitely Girl Trek is one. And like she said, it's on Facebook, they're on Instagram. If you want to know more, you just want to know more information about it, you can either DM me or you can DM Jackson and we can tell you about Girl Trek. But it's awesome. So tell us some other ones that you may follow or join.
Honestly, to tell you the truth, I don't follow a lot of organizations. Like,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I do and I don't. Like on Instagram, like I'll just pop on things and I'll see things. I follow more academic organizations, or I'll follow authors that I like. Like I'll follow Isabel Wilkerson. I'll follow uh you know, Black Panther,
Mm-hmm.
Black Panther Society, things like that. I like to follow things that are rooted in history and figuring
Mm-hmm.
things out.
Mm-hmm.
So when people want to follow things, I say, first you find somebody who you like what they're posting, and you go on there. I follow a lot of inspirational quotation places.
Yes.
One of my things that I'm very insecure about is my lack of decluttering skill. So I follow things like that. I'm a horrible housekeeper. I'm not gonna lie. I can't stand cleaning. I don't want to do it. I look. I feel as though I'd rather read a book. I'm sorry. Hey, it's what I do.
That's what it is. So I'm gonna bring up Glamarina,
Okay.
right? So Glamarina, I was introduced to Glamarina through Jackson. So what she's not sharing is that she may not follow a whole lot of people, but she's always about supporting Black businesses that are doing powerful things, right? So Glamarina is um a athletic gear um line for Black women of all shapes and sizes. So I got to know about Glamourina through Jackson. I have never heard of them before until she introduced me to them. And actually, I was able to do some modeling for them last year for one of their lines, which was like unreal, right? So if you want to know that story, that you can follow me, Side Behaken, because I put my story on there. So I think that's so important that we do try to support. Yes, Barbie said yes. Love
Glamourina,
Glamourina. Yes,
and they look
Glamourina.
good. All the
Yep.
stuff makes you look good.
Yes. So, but that's how I was introduced to Glamourina. I was introduced to her. And we was going for one of our walks like we always do. And I was like, oh, look at that. That looks cute. Where you get that from? She was like, girl, it's Glamourina. Oh, okay. So let's find Glamourina. And that's where it was. That's where it was. Um, so she's definitely a strong follower and believer of supporting um, Black women if they are doing something positive, right? So I'm going to say that we don't follow everybody, but if you're doing something positive, she's like, okay. So
I'll
I,
tell you. I'll
I
talk
want,
about
huh?
it. I'll talk about it.
Yes. So I wanted her to highlight those two, right? Same thing with Girl Trek. I think I was introduced to Girl Trek. I think you introduced me to Girl Trek.
Yeah.
She is like everywhere. She knows a little bit about this, a little bit about fitness, Black women in fitness, particularly those who go against the grain, because sometimes we think, like you said, we need to be a size 8, we need to be skinny, and that's not what we look like as Black women. I'm never going to be a size 8, if the truth be told. I don't care how much gym I do. I'm gonna have to starve myself. Like, and who wants to, I don't want to be unhealthy, right? The whole goal of getting in shape is being healthy.
Yes.
So it's just like, so those are the things that she kind of tells me about, and I'm like, oh, okay, let me check this out. So, as an educator, how do you feel? How do you feel about the LA schools teacher strike?
Hey, I'm all for striking. I wish New York would strike. But the problem is that in order to strike, you got to give something up. And that's something that we don't do. We don't realize that in order to get something, you got to give something up. And everybody's worried about the money. But in all honesty, if you gave, look, you are, the way to lose power is to not realize how much power you have. Teachers are very powerful. Let the whole of New York City have no teachers for 2 days. Just 2 days. Everybody sat up for 2 days. You lose 4 days because of the Taylor law. But people would realize how important we are.
Mm-hmm.
And I still call myself a teacher because I'm a teacher at heart. I mean, I'm in administration now, but I am a teacher. And I feel if you're not being treated right, you should strike. Learn that from my father, striking on the daily news. Never cross a picket line. Never cross a picket line.
So I have to say, honestly, that I did not know LA schools were striking until I turned on the news this evening. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, but I will say that we are the largest educational system in the country, right? So I do agree that we are definitely powerful when it comes to that. Um, but thank you for the question, guys. Any more questions before we wrap up and say good night?
And thank you,
I'm
girl.
proud of LA.
Thank you, girl. We'll talk. We got to go on a trip too. No,
Any
she's
more?
my Martha's Vineyard girl.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
Nice. Any more questions, comments, guys, before we say goodnight? Jackson, you need to type in that book.
Okay, I'm typing it in now.
Yes,
I'll do it now.
type in the book, and then if we have any more questions, we'll take it, and then we will say goodnight. Have a great night. Thank you. Thank you for joining us this evening. Any more questions, comments before we say good night?
Okay, I wrote the wrong thing. The
Okay.
sum of
Thank you.
us all. There we
Okay,
go.
she's putting it in again.
Yeah, that is. It's actually a book by Heather McGhee. I just started it. It's really about how racism affects everybody, economically, everybody.
Oh, we
What
got another
advice?
question. If you could give advice to younger self, what would you say?
Stop beating yourself up. It's all good.
Stop beating yourself up. I think we need to say that now to ourselves because, like you said, we are our own worst critics. Night, love the conversation. Have a good night. So great to hear your voice. It's
Oh,
been too
baby,
long, Laurie.
that's my high school girl from high school. Oh,
We
it's
got
good to
a
see
we
you.
got a
And
little
I'm thinking
reunion
of you
going on
today.
here.
I'm thinking of you on this day. I'm thinking of you. Okay.
All right, guys. Thank you. You can see this conversation again if you missed some of it. I'm going to tag Jackson on it, and so you can see it on her page, and you can also see it right here. Have a good
Thanks for
night.
inviting me, Saya.
Absolutely. I had a ball.
Okay. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
I'm going off now, Jackson.
All right. I know you'll call me.
Yep.
Bye.